I'm just gonna jump right in. I did just rewatch your video, and kind of some of the points make a lot of sense. I'm in the middle of something this month that, because of school, I'm having to define myself, or in some cases, redefine myself. And there's a lot of things. I feel that I have been a very mercurial person when it comes to music. I kind of just flip and go in and out, and I think that there's always been something in the back of my mind that's commercial. That is looking. Oh, that's a good one, Bert. I think it's always there, but I've always kind of nixed that in some extent because I'm looking to do something that makes me happy, or that I really appreciate, or that I can get excited about. And if I get excited about a '60s kind of based idea that has like great riffs in it, and it's not anything that anybody really wants to listen to except for our little group of people that we know, or know over the internet. um, Defining myself, I'm having to like brand myself now. I'm having to I've had to write a resume. It's all faux, but a resume and a bio, and this week I have to set up a website for my business. What is my business? Why did I get started in all this? And it's like I say, I've never stuck to one thing or one thought when it comes to music. The one thing that I've started to, on a side note, it is running across ageism. I'm a 65-year-old guy who really likes to listen to a certain kind of thing, and my kind of thing is starting to become more and more removed from what is popular, commercial. And maybe 25 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have thought like, well, yeah, I think that this is a good commercial thing, and this kind of fits what the image that I want to put out. And today, I don't really want to be seen. I don't really want to, people to see, as you stated, this 65-year-old guy. And yes, it does matter, but that's my own insecurities. And so I'm falling more into like film scoring, or the scoring, or of like docu films, or like short films that my friends in Estes Park would do. I mean, I would rather do that and be behind the scenes than to put myself out as an artist, or even at this point, like putting out a video. I mean, it's like I did a lot of like experimental video things between 16 and 19, but it was we had a lot of psychedelia things involved, and I still didn't put myself out there. But I just don't see myself sitting there with a guitar and filming myself, and creating a video for possible going insane, or that or getting picked up. I forgot the term, and I forgot the term because I really don't care. And that's where I think I've fallen into. I really don't care about what people are doing themselves. Not necessarily what I'm doing, but what people are doing. There's a lot of things that I don't want to be involved in that has a lot to do with youth and everything that they listened to growing up. I mean, I'm dealing with like 25-year-olds who were born like in the year 2000, maybe 2002. I mean, they only know the things they grew up in. Their equivalent would be like like 80s music, and then all the 90s, which I think is maybe, besides the 60s, it may be like the best time for for charted music. you know I just think that after 2000, everything just kind of doesn't mean anything. I have no attachment to it, and I don't want to recreate that, and I don't want to work inside of that that grouping of stuff. Ageism. I've said that. It's been sitting in the back of my head here. I am older than these 20, 25-year-olds that are wanting to be producers or or create like a library of loops to sell, which is actually a great idea because nobody really does like jangly guitar loops that people can actually use to create music. I mean, it's all just the same old as far as I'm concerned, and I don't want anything to do with that. But here I am, getting involved in that. So I still haven't defined myself, but I'm being forced to. Um, our music that you and I create, I think that I'm falling into the understanding that I am doing a lot of my own thoughts to be left behind. I mean, you said, you mentioned legacy, and I think that I am putting my legacy not necessarily for specific things, even though it does happen, specific actions or specific things that have come up in my life, and I write about them. Yes, I do. I'm leaving it as a legacy of my thoughts, and I'm not sure if my album, the Mike Carpenter albums, are fall in that, because there's a lot of like created things, which is I've basically almost refused to do. So that falls into the I don't want to do that anymore kind of thing. But I think that you know I'm a sad guy a lot of times, and I'm alone a lot, and that's my own choices. Um, I think that what I've been writing over the last 3 years is that I'm okay, but this is who I am, and maybe just to give an insight of myself in 35, 40 years. To I don't have any grandkids. I don't expect to, but the way my kids are. But David is still, I hope so. But that's kind of why I'm doing it. I'm understanding, but I can't escape commercialism. That is just something that I love to do. But my brand of commercialism is not necessarily what's going to be the hot thing. And I look at the massive successes of today, like Taylor Swift and or whatever, and it's very formulaic. And in popular music, I've noticed that every song has 17 writers on it now, and it's almost like assembly line, especially in Nashville, and to that extent. But also, it has a lot to do with all the female singer songwriters. um, I don't want to. Any reference I can throw out, Katy Perry, she's not doing anything, but in that vein, where it's not them, they're just recreating a song that has been written by 15 people, and as the hot hit. But there is a pattern. If we think that it's like verse chorus break, chorus verse chorus ending, there everything has always been that way, and there's certain elements that or like patterns that are popular, or even chord progressions. You know what I'm talking about. There's a couple chord progressions that are in everything. I mean, you just look at like a top 10, and those four chords in that progression are in every single song. It's just using the different loops or different tempo or instrumentation. I mean, it is literally down to that, and that's what I've noticed being in school for a year and a half now. It's wow, it is just production. It's nothing. So for with me, when I'm everything that I'm writing, and I mentioned the things that I throw, I write that. There's a lot of things on the SASPs that I kind of put in dummy lyrics just so I can have the idea, or the arrangement idea put out there, and I forget that sometimes. I'm going like, that's not my best thing. But what I've been working on, these 10, which is getting into 10, 12, 14 songs right now, I'm trying to break patterns. Not trying to write 4.5 minute songs. I'm not trying to do Jane stare at the sun, a little over 6 minutes. I'm trying to keep it between the 3 and the 3:30. I'm starting to fall into the 3:45 kind of situation now, which is But I tend to write those songs. I have on my phone. I have my lyrical worksheets where I can go every morning and just kind of like type in. So I change a lot of lyrics wording wise, or I think I come up with something very very. Um, uh, that, oh, that's a great line, and then 6 months later it's like, eh. I have long ago stopped using references that to a time. Like I remember something like on what was that cassette? No pants. Where the natives wear no pants, or the float your boat. I mentioned David Letterman in one of the songs, and it's like I don't want to do that, but I find myself referencing like my iPhone a lot, and some visuality of that, and I wonder, and those are the kind of things that I'll go back. I just want to make it more timeless if it's possible, but I don't want to mention like like Mr. Wheels, and I don't want to do that because it dates it to me, and the way things are these days, it dates it within months. So I'm picking up on things that were working or made sense in 2024 that are like, yeah, it's not really pertinent to anything anymore. So that's the kind of things that I know that I tend to write that I'm trying to change. I'm trying to take that idea, of like Trump or something like that, and just kind of take that feeling that I have about the Republican Party, and just put it into more of a generic thing, or maybe even like a psychedelic kind of like swirling idea. But I'm trying to put that emotion out there, and my emotions have been the breakup, and my parents leaving, and being by myself, being hoodwinked or whatever like that. I'm not perfect, um, and my mindset, and that's all being put into like writing for the legacy of whoever may do it. But again, it has to be for me because I don't see my children giving a damn about anything I do musically. So, which brings me up, why am I in school? Why do I need to define myself now in this class? And it's like, well, I want to do something that's almost out of spite. I'm going to write something that's going to be out there that is in popular culture in some form. That's why I'm saying not this face, not my sense of humor, but more of like the music of something, attaching myself to a project that they're going to have to listen to. And that was my dad. Maybe he wasn't so bad after all. I have a lot of that. I have a lot of that from my parents. I have a lot of that from my kids, people that I know. Because I don't define myself as a musician so much, but I'm working on that now because I just want to be able to do that. But I don't want to do it in front of people. It's more for the recording process, or the creative process, to open up my my sight view from this to this, and it would help with how I create or where I go with something. So that's kind of what I'm doing all this about. I'm not sure if I really want to help anybody except for myself. And there's times I don't want to do anything, and I don't. But school has actually focused me on like I have to get things done. I have to get things done today. I have something to do tonight. I have to work this weekend, and I have projects that need to be done. So I have today, tomorrow. I'll have Saturday morning. I'll have most of Saturday afternoon, but I have a lot to do. And that's kind of helping me with the songs. I wake up in the morning, I pick up that guitar, I'll run through, everything I'm writing, and and just work out the parts, and it only lasts a half hour, so that's fine. Um, I'm concerned about the ageism that I'm running into, like being the 65-year-old guy with, and people are 40 years older, and they're creating or wanting to start a career, and they have that kind of doe-eyed thing about it, and I'm not a doe-eyed guy anymore. In fact, I don't even have my contacts in right now. Um, So that's kind of where I am. I mean, I'm doing it for myself. I don't really foresee ever wanting to be on, to put myself out there, visually. But I do want to throw this out before I go. I watched David Bash's video clips of, from of that fantastic thing that he created for himself and for all us. And everybody in those bands, well, 90% of those bands are guys that are, in their 50s and 60s doing power pop. And, these are guys from the 90s and the late 80s. So, like Fountains of Wayne fans, or, from that time when it all kind of came together in the perfect 4 years, 93 to 2000 or to 1998 or so, where our kind of music was out there, with everyone's own little feel and inflections to it. That's gone, but David has put this this way of people being able to do that, and I watch like people like Eaton Mirsky and Kevin Robinson, and they throw themselves out there. I mean, like I'm seeing Eaton, doing karaoke in a thrift store lately, and I'm like, that's great. But for me, I have this sense of self cringe, and I don't want to do that, especially over and over, which comes, to the, like Kevin does these wonderful kind of like, not necessarily great songs, but definitely from the heart, and it's the overall sound that we love to hear. But he does it all the time, so I'm kind of self-aware about that. So I don't want to just be out there putting out, the over and over and over and over. But I look at Michael Carpenter, and he's doing, he releases singles. He just released like an album or two. The Banks Brothers thing, and he just put out his own direct line from his power pop days, the Cuban Heels, all those bands that he was in, and he's putting it out there, but it doesn't happen very often, and I think that's kind of what it is. So I think that I would put something out again, and it just comes down to what you said. I'm not even sure about the timing here. It's 17 minutes. It comes to what you said. It's like what we do is for us at this point in our lives, but it undeniably wanting to get some kind of feedback from people. We don't want to become popular or like the latest thing, but everything that when we pick up a guitar, and when we write something, and go through the process of finishing it, it is actually to get some sort of feedback or some kind of appreciation, and we can't deny that. We shouldn't feel bad about it. I don't think that, what's the point of doing it? Well, the point of doing it is to just to satisfy that piece of us inside that's like, they'll like that, which brings in my, that thinking, well, this is commercial. Well, commercial to that group of people. This is not something that anybody huge is going to write or cover. So do I want to split myself down there? Do I want to write something commercial that can possibly be picked up by a publishing or become like a staff writer somewhere? Or do I just want to continue doing this and just perfecting what it is that I do? To be truthful, I think, is it a pipe dream? I don't know, but I think that there's that little piece of us, and I know you have it too, but there's that little piece of us that want acknowledgement. And that's the kind of thing I think that to bring ageism into for the fourth time. I don't think that there's a thought process inside of the music business that allows for newcomers who are going to only be around for 10 years to be taken as serious as some 25-year-old doe-eyed, dingbat who just needs to recreate the same thing over and over and over, and who thinks that Puff Daddy, that's not what they call him, it was a huge thing. You know, those are people actually in their 40s now. So those opinions don't matter, but I'm still trying to write and create so that I matter. It's very hard to define ourselves, and I think that the less time we do, we put towards trying to define ourselves, the happier we will be. And that's kind of what I wanted to say. And I'm at the 20-minute mark. So, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, it's not going to matter in the big picture, but it matters to you. And I think it matters to me and a few other people inside of our circle. It matters. I don't want to get involved with somebody who wants to be in a band, and I certainly don't want to get involved in music business that way. It's like, you know, finding a band and trying to break them. It's just very hard to define myself, and I'm okay with that. Love you, man. Bye.